What's going on, everyone? Today is Friday, September 11th, and the market is closed. We're going to be focusing mostly on futures today, predominantly the Nasdaq futures and the ES, which stands for the S&P 500 futures contracts. Now, this video is not necessarily going to be too beginner friendly. I would consider it more intermediate to advanced. But if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know I was pretty active today because I saw such a beautiful short trade coming, and I posted a couple screenshots. This was one of them. Again, before this price action happened on the ES and on the Nasdaq, the market opened around here. It was kind of why I saw such a good short trade incoming, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys didn't necessarily understand some of my notes on the chart, so I kind of want to go over what I was thinking when I posted it, as well as how you can read this type of information. This is Ninjatrader. It's just another platform. I use this for futures. I know this might look a little foreign to you guys because it's not Thinkorswim. I'm going to switch over to Thinkorswim after I kind of walk you guys through some of this action right here, and you can see how you can use this information to take advantage of, even if you're not necessarily trading futures. Now I'm going to clear my charts of all my notes and all my different trend lines and stuff like that, so you guys can see a fresh chart just focused on price action. What we're looking at is the hourly time frame, and this is Monday, September 7th, rolling right into today, which is Friday, September 11th. We're looking at just this week in the Nasdaq and just this week in the ES. Again, this is the hourly time frame, so just give me a second while I clear the charts. As I'm clearing my charts in the background, I just want to show you guys I created a Discord group. I'm considering it more so a timestamp instead of using my Instagram feed. It's just a timestamp from when I post these screenshots, so you guys can see this is the time I posted. It was 10 a.m. Again, 30 minutes after the market opened. I used the first 30 minutes to actually be active, so that's why it took me a little bit of time to post this, but I actually had this plan drawn out from around here. And then this is the Nasdaq. It was posted just a minute right after, just so you guys can see this was at 10 a.m. and then later in the day, from the time we hit the target, I had taken a screenshot. So again, I will be posting this stuff on Discord for when I make my YouTube videos. I'll kind of have a timestamp for when I posted this content. Now let's jump back to the Ninjatrader charts. And here we have it. This is what I see when I start my day, believe it or not. Nice and clean, just the way I like it. Now today is Friday. I don't have after hours or pre-market data or anything like that turned on because the futures charts is pretty much continuous. It trades for the most part 24/7 around the clock. It is closed until 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and then it does open back up at 6 p.m. It is continuous, but here's a screenshot of what it looks like on Thinkorswim, which is more so what you're probably more familiar with. So you can see the shaded areas would be considered the after hours session, and then the non-shaded is the intraday session, which is the open market hours. Over here we have Monday, which was a holiday. The futures market was actually open and it closed at noon. So I just leave a little note on my chart saying this is Labor Day, so I know why the chart might look a little funny over there. Then, as we know, last week in the market was pretty bloody. We sold all the way off to the 50-day SMA on the daily time frame. You guys can see it here and Thinkorswim again. I don't have any of those indicators up on Ninjatrader. I like to focus entirely on price action, volume profile, which I'm going to show you guys, as well as just looking at the tape for block orders. Now, as the market was selling off pretty strongly, like most traders, we had a good idea we were going to get a bounce at the 50 SMA. I was not interested in the bounce trade, even though it was a really good trade, and I did see that. My entire game plan was to follow the trend of the market, which is down for the most part. I was just interested in the short that I would have been a lot more confident in because I had more conviction to take that trade. So Labor Day aside, knowing all this price action occurred on Tuesday right into this level, which is what you see on this gap. You really see gaps on the futures charts. It's just, again, when they close down the circuits between 4:30 to 6. This right here was Tuesday, September 8th at 6 p.m. So this is just as the futures market opened again. So I leave a note on my chart just reminding me of what that time frame is, and then we run right up until here. This is right here would be 9 o'clock, 9:30. So this is right when the market opens. I'll put a line right here just so you guys can be aware. So this is the overnight session, and this is as the market opens. And as you can see, on the 9th we had a nice run up. I was watching to see when we finally had bulls getting exhausted. The market put in a little bit of a double top here, and that was pretty nice. So whenever I see any action like that, the first thing I'm going to want to do is draw out my volume profile starting from the first run up. So that's what we have happening right now, and then we'll end it here. This is telling me right here, hold on, let me just change the properties so you guys can see it a little bit clearer. I'm going to reload on my template. There we go. Let me just extend it so you guys can see. So the orange line, which the colors are relevant, but for me it's orange. The orange line is considered the point of control. That's where the majority of volume actually took place. So now I know the level in which the big orders had taken place, and this is going to be read as clear resistance, because once we sold off as the end of the day, as we can see, the market came back to this point of control and sold off. So I was reading it as the resistance, and I just continued to extend it out. As we can see, the point of control had dropped, but let me skip ahead because I really want to focus on just today's price action. I don't want this video to be entirely too long, so I'm going to drag it out And this is as we can see, the market came back up to here, and during yesterday's open and drive, the market actually ran straight up into this point of control. Now this was a really clean short because not only was it red as a triple top, one key thing to take note of is at 4 a.m., which is right here. I'll draw an arrow for you guys. That's when the Chinese market, this is the Chinese power hour, and at 4 a.m. is when the Chinese market closes. So just like we have power hour over here, they also trade heavy volume during power hour, and you'll generally see at 4 a.m. at our time, that's 4 p.m. for them, there's usually going to be some sort of a bounce trade or a reversal trade. It's just an observation in which I've realized if you just go back whenever we have large moves in the futures. Right here, we had this consolidation, we had this run up. Now this run up started, the buying started happening, we'll call it at 5 o'clock in the morning, and it ran straight up until 10 a.m. our time. That's a lot of buying that happened, and eventually I was going to tire out. So it made sense that we actually got this sell-off here. So for an open and drive scalp, this is pretty bullish. But for me, I knew not to take any type of long trades, knowing we were coming into this point of control, and then we had this sell-off. So now I'm going to extend this out into right here, which is 8 a.m. this morning, and this is the point of control. It hasn't really changed. It's telling me that's still smart money or big money, however you want to interpret it. They've been either shorting from up here or closing a lot of their long positions up here. I'll draw this line out for you guys, make it an orange so it matches, and then I'll just put in a text saying POC so you guys know that is the point, so you guys know it's the same color so it matches the point of control. Now from there, the next thing I want to do is look out for any trends or channels. So pretty easily I noticed this right here was this trend line, but instead of drawing out the trend line, usually I like to draw a channel instead, just to see where we can find the midpoint as well as where it can be potential support. I'm going to delete this right now because it's just to point out for you guys, this is the Chinese power hour, and we'll draw it out channel. So I'm going to start from up here. With experience, it won't be that difficult for you guys to be able to spot, you know, channels and trend lines. It becomes very easily identifiable with a little bit of time and experience. And then let's just draw this back here. I'm using these points again. That's where a little bit of discretion as well as experience comes into play. And as we can see, it was a really nice channel forming, and I saw this price action happen. Now this was 7 o'clock in the morning. I was not up to see this, but what I did see, as you guys know, is you guys will hear me say this over and over again, I am a Fibonacci retracement trader, and the 50% retracement is the one that I pay the most attention to. I usually take the swing high straight into the swing low. Let's extend it out. Just going to change the template so it doesn't clutter my chart. And what you guys can see right here is the 50% retracement in confluence with this channel resistance. We also have this price level here, so I'll draw that out. Again, for you support and resistance traders, we can come back to here and we can see this is resistance, resistance, resistance. On the hourly chart, these wicks are pretty strong resistance. If you guys don't trade off the hourly chart, I would highly recommend it, especially for futures. So here we go. I just made it a dashed line, but here you guys can see 50% retracement. We have this resistance line. We also have this channel resistance. That's 3 reasons right here why this is a good trade, just to short at 7 a.m. Not to mention the fact that we had been running up the entire overnight session, but it's also because I know what side of the trade big money is on. We're continuing with the trend. What we have here is this massive push phase. We had an exhaustion phase that started to look like it was going to be a push phase, but usually we're not going to get the first break of a point of control, or we're not going to get the first break. So if I don't want to pay attention to too much prior price action, but I know there was a congestion zone going on over here, but I really just want to focus in on this week and how I was reading it, because I didn't need any prior information. As you can see, I don't have any price levels, all-time highs, there's no trend lines from the daily chart, nothing. I'm just looking at the hourly chart for this week alone. It was more than enough information. Now, knowing what side of the trade big money was on, we also have another push phase. This would be considered an exhaustion phase. I guess it depends on what you ever want to call it. Some people call this, we have a run and a pullback, push, exhaustion, retracement, whichever way you want to take it. Is just knowing I want to take the trade in the current direction of the overall trend. I will zoom out, I will show you guys what it looks like on a larger time frame, just so you guys can see we are following the trend, which is down right now, and I don't want to trade against the trend. So taking note of that, I usually just like to draw this out right here. So taking note of that, I'll leave an arrow on my chart. Now again, most of this is happening all before pre-market. If I'm not already in a trade, it gives you plenty of time. There's no need to necessarily rush to jump into anything, and with futures, you can take these trades pretty early. I like to make my charts very clean so I can just read exactly what this means, and that's why I'm sharing this video with you guys. So when you see me post this, you know exactly, you can have some sort of an idea into what I'm thinking. The other important thing that I wanted to point out was the fact that the point of control was way up here, but look at how many candles. Look at how price was actually in this area for hours. It was only up here for 1, 2, 3, 4 hours, or not even 4 hours out of the span of a couple of days. It was just a couple wicks. It was just 4 wicks in which it was up there, and that was enough for the point of control to be up there. That was extra confirmation that it was a lot of heavy unloading. Now, unlike my last video, I don't have any screenshots of the tape. I wasn't aware of the block orders. I was using just the point of control as the edge in this particular case. But what I liked is seeing this 50% retracement. Now, normally when I see this type of action with multiple reasons why this is considered a short trade, we'll take a look at Thinkorswim shortly so you guys can see how you could have gotten a really good entry with minimal risk. But I'll draw out another lines just so you guys can see where the market opened. So this is 9 a.m. right here. So I'll just draw this. So this is right as the market opened. Again, it's the hourly chart, so I can't split it at 9:30, but this is the open session. As we can see, we had a little bit of selling, a little bit of consolidation. We came right back, retested this trend line, which is already drawn out before it happened. Again, I'll flash what I had posted on my Instagram before this happened, and then as we can see from there, we had this straight flush down. Now this flush in itself from here to here is 59 points, which is an amazing trade. We're talking about if you risk off of this previous wick, if you got the trade up here, or even if you got the trade here and you risk off of here, or even if you risk off of the 50% retracement, you're talking about at least a 1-to-4 risk reward ratio. And with the ES, each point represents $50. So one contract with a 50-point move equals some nice change. Again, one contract, and depending on your broker, you only need anywhere from $500 of capital in your account to purchase one contract. With Thinkorswim, I believe you need $13,000 or $14,000 per contract to actually take the trade. But again, there are alternatives out there. In this particular case, Ninjatrader is one of them, which is one of the reasons I like using Ninjatrader. You don't need that much capital to actually take a trade like this. I'll list a couple others down below. Nothing necessarily proprietary about it. I would just encourage you to do the research. Make sure whatever platform you're going to be trading has the tools in which you would like. Again, I focus mostly on channels, trend lines, point of control, and then block orders coming into the tape. This is in a sense the quick rundown of the ES. Let's switch over to the Nasdaq now, and you guys can see what I was thinking there. Here, as I mentioned before, we have Labor Day. Now I noticed the Nasdaq came back up to this level, whereas the ES chart, which would be right here, it didn't come back up to this level. It actually got rejected because the point of control was a little bit lower. So looking at that information, the first thing I decided to do was draw out the volume profile for Labor Day, and I saw that this level right here was the actual point of control. So if I just draw this over, just going to change out the color so you guys can understand. My yellow lines are usually used, yellow and orange is usually used for the point of control. I noticed that that's where we got rejected. So even though we had this double tap here, which is another beautiful short, this power hour trading session on September 9th, I was actually shocked to see that overnight we did break that level, unlike the ES, and ran up, but it made sense why we got rejected right there. Next, we'll do the same thing. Just for consistency purposes, I'll just draw this arrow right here so you guys know. This right here was the 6 p.m. on September 8th gap down. And just like with the ES, we're going to draw out our volume profile from this gap down all the way up until the price action that I saw right before the market opened. So we'll stop at right here around 8 a.m. as I'm doing my pre-market analysis, and we'll see this is where I got that point of control. So we'll do the same thing. We'll just draw out our line. The next, as you guys should know, we're going to draw out our channel very quickly. So I'm going to come back to here because again, oh wait, sorry, let's actually just change this. It's a little too bright. There we go. The next, as you guys know, channel, trend lines, all that's going to skip the trend lines and just go straight into the channel because I identified this pretty nicely from just connecting all of the swing highs and then looking for the swing lows coming back here. I noticed that's the price action which we were seeing, and just connecting all of the swing lows, and these were where I had the most amount of touches. Again, as well as discretion and experience tells me this would have been a good trend line. Again, this price action was not here. Here's the screenshot of what it looked like before I posted this, just as the market had opened around 10 a.m. I believe we were around the Nasdaq was around here. Now, just like the ES, we'll draw out our fibs, and we have from swing high to swing low, we had this price action. Just making it minimal real quick so it doesn't clutter the charts. But we had the 50% retracement, same situation. I won't even buy, I mean, I'll just draw this for consistency purposes, but we also had this resistance here on the Nasdaq. This confluence right here is just what makes me super excited. When I wake up and when I see this type of action overnight, I'm going to trade in continuation with the trend, because again, identifying this was the push phase, this was the exhaustion phase. I'm expecting another leg down to the downside, at least down to this channel, at least down to the channel support, and that's why I had considered this to be the profit on the short trade. Now when I'm trading the fibs, I also use the -23 and the -61% as the final PTs, if you guys seen that in my previous videos. But when I'm looking at such a big trade, I don't look to necessarily be greedy. Even this can be considered a greedy profit target depending on who you're talking to, but I'm trading the channel and there was no reason necessarily to get out. The channel midline can sometimes be a little scary because we might find either support or resistance there depending on which side of the trade you're on. But yeah, that's one quick breakdown of how I read this. Let's jump over to Thinkorswim right now. You guys can see how the price action looked on a smaller time frame, like the 15-minute time frame, as well as how you could perfected your entries. All right, jumping right into it, guys. What we're looking at right here is the Nasdaq on a daily chart, because I didn't show you guys that in Ninjatrader. One important thing I do want to point out is in Thinkorswim, when you just put in the /NQ, it is rolling over to the following quarter contract. It does that to protect you since the contracts are expiring this month. If you want to view this current month, you actually have to put in U and then 20. That's just standing for the U, just represents September. This is the contract in which we were looking at in Ninjatrader. Now, if we dive into the hourly chart, I'm pretty sure this looks a lot more familiar. This looks a lot more familiar to you guys. The orange line is just the 50 SMA on the daily, something to take note of. We have been selling off into it, but we can expect there to be some buyers at this level. So the gap down in which I had referenced in Ninjatrader that occurred over here, this is the 6 p.m. when the buying started happening, and then we had the double top. We sold off, and then we had the break, and this is the same point of control. Here's Labor Day when the market closed at noon. This is the overnight session. We had this as the point of control, and as you can see, we ran, and this is the same level in which we ran up to. Let me just put an overlay of the Ninjatrader chart so you guys can see it's pretty much the same chart. But that aside, let's just jump straight to this morning. Again, I look at the chart, I generally look at the chart like this. I don't like to see the overnight sessions. Let's draw it out Fibonacci's and we'll see. Let's draw it out Fibonacci's, and there we go. That was the 50% retracement in which I was talking about. Trades like this, as you guys know from my first video or probably every video following, you guys will know I use this as my stop loss. This is what I would consider first PT, second PT, but the actual PT, depending on the trade and how much conviction I have, is actually here, and the final one is all the way down here. Now, for a trade like this, I'm not looking for all the way down there because this is already such a huge move. If we dial it down, if we dial it in a little bit closer, the 15-minute time frame. Once this breakdown happened, this is 6 a.m. Actually, let me jump into the 5-minute time frame, which is probably a little bit more familiar to you guys. We have the after hours data on. The gray line is VWAP. Now, depending on what type of trader you are, you can already see on the 5-minute time frame how this just looks insane. And if you're not paying attention to the bigger trade or the bigger idea, you can talk yourself out of a really good trade just off of looking at this price action. Which is why if I'm trading the futures, it's actually better for me to just look at the hourly. I have high confluences on a larger time frame. Try not to get shaken out of this. I'm telling you guys, especially with the futures, you will see all sorts of crazy stuff happening. And that's why I like trading from the larger time frame from this, because if you're in below VWAP and your stop is over here and you're not paying attention to your P&L and you're not trading, thinking entirely about the profits, right here, you're giving this, call it a 20-point stop loss. So a 20-point stop loss is $400 with one contract, which could seem pretty steep depending on your account size, but you can also trade the micro contracts. And the micro contracts, each point is $2. So it's definitely something to look into if you have a smaller account. But this is essentially what I was looking at. And again, as the market opened, I posted that this is just going to be looking like a really nice short trade, and I did not really pay attention to any of this ridiculous action right here. And you can see the PT was hit pretty nicely. Putting the Ninjatrader chart back on the screen, you guys can see how crazy this can look in comparison to the hourly chart or even the 15-minute time frame. Here's when we touched the 50 SMA on the daily for the first time, and as you can see, we came right back to this level here today. So it's going to be an interesting start of next week. Let's just throw up let's just wrap with the ES chart. Here's the hourly time frame, same situation. Here was the double top. This short actually had me very excited. This is actually the first short that I was just like very excited about, because it was running straight up, as straight up into this consolidation zone. Again, I didn't want to talk about last week's price action. I just wanted to focus on this chart, but this right here was just a beautiful short. I'm talking about on the Nasdaq. I think this is over 100 points or something like that. Let's just switch back to the Nasdaq real quick so we can see exactly how many points from which we're talking with these trades. So from the full move with the 50% retracement stop over here, let's just say you're risking, with the larger account, you can risk 60 points. For in this particular case, the full PT would be 350 points. That's if you're trading at, you know, 4, 5, 6 in the morning. Not up that early to trade futures, but if around here where we actually see a good entry, from here to here, risking that's the 20-point risk in which I was talking about. We're risking 20 points to potentially gain. The full move is over 300 points, but that no one's going to catch that full thing, especially with a lot of the action that was coming in here. A good place to peel off some profit would have been at the 50 SMA as well as this area, and then final target down here. So it would take a lot of strength to hold for this full move without taking some profits, especially you'll be up over 100 points within 15 minutes or in 30 minutes or so. It's not something that I can say anyone can hold through that, myself included. But I wanted you guys to see the range of a move like that. So this sell-off here, which was a very easy sell-off, this was over 100 points into the market close right here that I saw. And if we go back to the ES chart, going back to the ES chart, let's draw out our retracement. As you guys would know, this is usually how I start with the move. From here to here, here's the same retracement from Ninjatrader, and there goes our 50% levels. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be perfect. It's in alignment, it's in confluence with all the other areas. Charts look a little bit different on Ninjatrader and different platforms, but for the most part, you guys get the idea. We're looking at it here, and let's go to the smaller time frame. Here's the same chart right here. There's another thing to point out that I left out. Again, I didn't want this video to be too long. I'm trying to work on the sizing. I'm trying to work on the length of my videos, but I do have to point this out right here. There's so many things, so many ways to look at this. Let's actually hide this. Let's actually hide that, and I just want to show you guys. This right here can be considered our pole, and then we have this flag forming right here. So there's a pattern in itself, and this is where we have the break of the pattern, which is something to take note of. So I'll just draw back out my fibs. Again, the fibs can be, sometimes when it's that many wicks, sometimes I won't even use the wick, sometimes I'll use the body. Again, discretion as well as experience will tell you how to actually adjust certain lines. The same thing with your trend lines. That's where it becomes a little bit more of an art than a science, but at the same time, you can argue with a 50% retracement. Dialing into the 5-minute time frame, we'll see we had hit it, and that's what got me pretty excited. We broke back down below VWAP. This fake out here is what actually had me nervous. Again, I was more focused on the Nasdaq. I didn't like the way the ES was working. We know tech has been selling off, so I was more focused on the Nasdaq after posting out the game plan. But this move would have had any person short nervous. But it depends on what you're trading. If you have this trend line here, let me just actually adjust that. So we have this trend line here, and say you took this breakout, there was the retracement, and this is where you were short from. Missing this short, this is just another opportunity to get in if you missed this entry. Reading how volume was here, we can see, again, I don't necessarily use Thinkorswim's volume when I'm looking at futures, but this is something to take note of. Look at the volume that came in here. I'm pretty sure there's 4,500 shares. It says it up here. It's 4,500 shares that were traded. There were some block orders involved because this is a 5-minute time frame. That is a lot of orders taking place at 7:25 in the morning. So I would have that area marked off. This is another place to take that short. Just so we can have an idea of the range of this move from the 50% to the first PT, that's 47 points. It went a full 65 points if a short from the open, just as it fell below VWAP. If you gave it your stop would have, I mean, from here your stop would have to be over this level, and that's where you don't want to give it too tight of a stop. You want to give it a little bit of room. As I'm saying, this would have made any person nervous, but if you're giving this, call it all the way back up to the 50% retracement. If you wanted to give it a 5-point stop loss, give it a 10, give it a little bit of room, possibly even a 15. It's still within the risk reward parameters, because with the 10-point stop, you're looking at a 30-point reward, and for the full move, again, from there, it's a 50-point drop if you were not trading from pre-market. This is actually the entry that I liked, that had me excited from right here. From here to here, it's over 58 points. And lastly, I don't want to leave out the SPY. I'm going to turn the pre-market data off, and you guys can see why that same level on the ES was pretty important. if we draw out our price level, we had this gap right here. It was in confluence with the futures. I mean, it was in confluence with this is the gap down. This is when the futures ran this whole day. Here was the double top on which I was talking about. Here was, we can see how we got stuck right at this level right here, and then we sold off. If you've been trading for a while, it becomes pretty easy to spot certain patterns, but you can call this some sort of a pole right here, this whole area, and then we'll call this a flag right here. So we have another flagpole, or you can look at it as this can be your pole, and then this would be considered your flag. And then we had a break right here, which would have presented itself with another opportunity for a nice trade, especially once we broke below VWAP. We came and we couldn't reclaim it. What I ended up really liking, because after taking note of that, I did look at the SPY here and there. Sometimes I do look at the SPY while I'm trading the Nasdaq. I saw this trend forming right here. We'll duplicate this, and this will be the flag in which I'm talking about. This is the flag in which I'm talking about. And you see we had this break here, a little bit of a false breakout, because it did reclaim VWAP, but as you can see, we failed right at this level right here. Now the other important thing to take note of with this, we'll see that this was actually another flag, another bear flag right here formed before presenting another break. So here goes another entry. So identifying, being able to spot the larger bear flag as well as the smaller bear flag would have presented itself with an extra confirmation to take this short trade below VWAP if you were an options trader. Again, multiple ways to use the information from the futures. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If it's your first time here to the channel, hit the subscribe button down below. Leave a comment with any questions. Let me know if there's anything you guys want to see in future videos. Don't forget to like and share. Thank you guys for watching.